も泣いているの？この話が聞きたくて泣いているのなら
I'm trying to take you back to your early childhood. Although this sound and this speech might have sounded very strange to you, it's very probably what your mother sounded like when you were just a baby. A lovely voice saying beautiful things, but you have no idea what it means. And it was up to you to figure out what these sounds were, what they were like, how did they belong together, and most importantly, what's she trying to say to you? And you all did it. You all managed. Congratulations. You learned your native language very well. And you did it very quickly as well. When you were just born, you were already able to recognize the intonation and the rhythm of your native speech. And you were just out of the womb. And then within a few months, you were able to learn which sounds belong together to form words. And then a few months later, you were able to recognize words and you understood the grammar of your native language. Now, if your native language is German, I'm very impressed because I'm trying to learn it. And the grammar is very difficult, trust me. But you did it, and you did it before you could even speak. And now I see some of you might not believe me because it is difficult, and how can such a small baby learn such complex things in such a short amount of time? And without it being really taught to them, it's effortless. So how is this studied? It's very simple, actually. What you do is the child just sits on his parents' lap, and there's one blinking light on the right and one blinking light on the left. And if the child looks at the blinking light on the right, it hears a sentence that is grammatically correct. For instance, the cat walked up the stairs. But if it looks to the left, then it gets the same sentence, but with a slight mistake in it. Like the letter walked up. Slight mistake. And what happens is that this child starts looking to the right way more and more and more because it prefers to hear grammatically correct sentences, even if they're just a few months old. And then if you switch, so suddenly the left is the grammatically correct side, then they start looking at the left more because they still want to hear grammatically correct words, sentences. So it's very interesting how quickly this process goes and how naturally it goes. All we need is good input. And so I might have convinced you now that our language system is very unique and very interesting. But one of the remaining questions that scientists are still wondering about is how this whole language ability came about. How did it evolve? Where did it start? How did it come to be such a complex and unique system that we have? So to answer this question, we cannot look at fossils. There's no bones that tell us how our language was in our far ancestors. There's no records of it before we could write. So we need to find other means to figure out how our language started. What was the basic point? And that's where my work comes in, and that's what I've been doing for the past couple of years. I've been studying language, but not by studying only humans. I also study animals. The idea is that the shared features of language that we have with animals are the ones that might have been present in our far ancestors, the ones that we share. Because the whole system of language might be unique to humans, it doesn't mean that every part of it is actually that unique. So, to give you an example, I've been studying songbirds, which are birds with a very complex vocalizations. And one of them is the zebra finch. It's a very small bird from Australia, and it sounds a bit like this. See, very small, simple song. It learns it very much in the way that we learn language. So it has to hear the song, then it has this babbling face, and then it actually sings this beautiful song. And what we've been asking the zebra finches is whether they can learn the intonation of our speech. You can understand that intonation is one of the crucial factors of language. For instance, it really matters whether I say, "Why, don't you look nice?" instead of, "Why don't you look nice?" Completely different, and it's just intonation. So these zebra finches were exposed to two different sounds. It was the same word, but they different in intonation. They sounded like this.
Le, no, no. Le, no, no.
Did you hear that? The first one had the intonation on the beginning, the le, and the second one had the intonation at the end. but it were the same sounds that we were using. And so we showed these to the zebrafinches, or we played them actually, and we let them decide to peck one or the other button. And they learned to distinguish between these sounds very easily. They recognized it, they were like, yes, yes, lay, leave, lay is that button, the other one's that button. So when they learned it very well, we played them new sounds that they've never heard before, but that had the same intonational patterns. And we asked them, what do you think? Is this button 1 or button 2? And very clearly, they recognized the intonation of these words. They were like, oh yeah, this one's that one, and that one's that one. So that means that these very tiny birds that have pea-sized brains that have nothing to do with humans are still able to learn the same intonational sounds that we use in our language. That means that the perception of intonation is not something that's unique to language. It's not something that's unique to humans. It's something that's shared between different species. And that means that intonation might be one of these shared features, one of these aspects of language that might have been present in our far ancestors, one of these building blocks of evolution that can help us to figure out where we come from, how we evolved, and how all these complex things came together. And strengthened by these results, I'm searching for more of these shared features of our language, because I think that these complex phenomena can often be solved by smaller findings. Ich danke euch.